Hello, and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 218, feature whale sheet. I can barely find her. Recorded on Friday, September 30th, 2022 from Zenatta Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the show.
Are you looking into starting a podcast? Or maybe just need some help putting it all together so you could focus on your voice telling your story? Introducing Podcaster Zen. From audio podcasts to video to live streaming a show, we do it all. Head over to podcasterzen.com for more info on how we can help you share your message with the world.
Oh, Podcaster Zen. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. We've got some happy clients over there. Really stoked with that little project we've got going on. If you've got a podcast, well, as you just saw, we do it all for you. Anyway, let's get into our events and webinars. As always, if you're unfamiliar, if you head over to zenatta.com/events, that is where we keep track of everything coming up in the world of Zoho. And it appears that October is an extremely slow month because the first thing is us doing our Zoho survey full product tutorial for 2022. I think everybody at Zoho is a little tired. They've been running massive Zoholics all over Europe right now, and then they're going into India. So maybe not a lot of webinars coming up. But we're going to take you through Zoho survey. Have we ever done a Zoho survey before?
I don't think so. I don't think we've ever done like a deep tutorial on it. So that'll be a good one. We find a lot of people use it kind of as an extension of CRM. So I think a lot of people get some value from that.
And on that same day, you've got the Zoho People Overview put on by Zoho, and that's going to be at 10:30 a.m. Pacific. So if you're a Zoho People user and you don't use survey, you may want to check that out. Sit in for the first half hour of ours. I don't know. You choose. So many choices in the world of Zoho. And then Zoholics is going to kick off at the end of the month over in India on Halloween. So all of Zoholics India will be there. And then the rest of the events. So as always, head over to zenatta.com/events to find out what's going on in the world of Zoho. All right. With that, Tyler, let's get right on into the news. Cliq Networks, external collaboration made easy. Tyler, this one has me baffled. So if you're not familiar, Zoho Cliq is like Slack. It's basically a multi-chat, multi-channel internal communication tool. There's so much you can do. We love it. We've talked about it a lot on the show. What they're announcing here is that you can now have external collaboration with these Cliq networks. What this means is you're working with somebody, you'd like to maybe set up a separate channel where you can discuss it rather than do it in SMS. So, or emails back and forth. You can kind of keep everything in one place. You can put documents there. You can do all those kind of things. And you now can set up an external channel where you can invite these people, and all they have to do is have a Zoho account. They don't have to pay. They can actually just go up and sign up for Cliq. It's free for your basic Cliq account. And then you can have this external channel. The thing that baffles me about this, Tyler, is we've been doing this for years. It's just, I don't understand. So it basically...
Maybe this is reintroducing Cliq networks, because I had the same reaction. I saw this, and maybe it's slightly different than what you could previously do. Maybe it's because maybe they used to call them like external channels. Maybe it's like a rename or a rebrand. But I mean, we've definitely done this before. We've got channels with other Zoho partners or people at Zoho, and so unless we're missing something,
I've got a group.
I've had group. This, was already there, right? And so maybe it's just easier to join or a little easier to connect with some of these external people. But nonetheless, we do find use in this. The caveat is, of course, they do have to have a Zoho account, even if it's a free one that they sign up for. But the example that they give here is actually pretty good in that maybe you have a vendor and you do a ton of business with them. right? And so going back and forth via email or SMS, just a little slower. You want to make a quick channel with a handful of their team, handful of your team, so we can just communicate a little more quickly and easily. So definitely a lot of use cases for these. Nice for them to highlight them. But yeah, I had a similar reaction. I was looking at this like, thought you could already do that, but maybe it's a new name for a a similar tool.
Yep. Yep. And I was looking at the pricing earlier. They've got the free plan. Paid plans, the most expensive is if you're less than 500 users. That's going to be most Zoho companies. It's just $3 per user per month. And I want to say last time I looked at Slack, it was $9
More.
per user per month. Yeah, I know more, for
Definitely.
sure more. So, and there's a great migration tool. So if you're using Slack, there's just so much you can do internally. We talk about this all the time. I mean, we've got one of, I think, the coolest things I love inside our Slack channel is I get these emails from Zoho letting me know whether or not clients have, hey, they added a user, they took away a user, they got a new feature, they did this, they did that, because they kind of keep us informed as their partner what's going on with the account. And that email, they were coming in to me, and they just put them in a folder, and you never really got to look at them. It's just kind of a pain. So now we just take them, we forward them to Desk. In Desk, we run a parser that takes care of that email and then puts it in one line and says, Zycler has upgraded their account by 1 license. And so it's just, you've got this nice little feed that comes into Cliq. And it's a beautiful thing. There's just tons and tons you can do with this. That could be an implementation of the week, Tyler.
It could.
Talk about that.
Surely could.
Yeah.
We might have done it before, actually.
Probably.
Take a look.
All right. So with that, let's move on with the news. Kind of a crazy one. Bigin, if you're unfamiliar with Bigin, it is Zoho's stripped down, streamlined CRM that's kind of very pipeline driven and Kanban driven. And it's also got a beautiful mobile application. And it was stripped down, and man, they just keep bolting stuff onto this on a daily basis, Tyler. And now they're integrating it with Microsoft Teams. So
yeah, and so it looks like if we scroll down a little bit, I think this is one of those integrations where it kind of embeds Bigin within Teams, right? It's similar to what they have with projects, where essentially what you're doing here is taking the entire Bigin app and embedding it as a tab within Microsoft Teams, so that if Teams is kind of like that home base for your company, but you are using Bigin, you can essentially add these different channels and groups automatically to be able to view and work with that data. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll see essentially they've added just a quick little tab that shows your full Kanban view. You can move your deals around, open them up and make updates, pretty much just use Bigin, but embedded within Teams. So pretty cool. I mean, again, like I think for people who have to use a lot of different applications, when you can kind of bring them together, it makes life just a little bit easier.
Yes. There you go. So kudos to the Bigin team. Keep making improvements there. And moving on, this is really cool. So you can now instantly locate any feature inside of Zoho Sheet with the new feature finder. So what does this mean? Well, there are a lot of applications for this here, but basically if you click on help now, you can just type anything into the little search menu box there, and it will look for example, a function. So in the example, again, if you're watching us on YouTube, they got a little animation here. You type help, you type average, and it gives you all the different average formulas that you could put in, functions that you could put in. And, for things like average, probably wouldn't need it, but there are a lot of functions, like, what is it? Concatenate? How's that word? How's it pronounced? Concatenate, right? I can never spell concatenate or pronounce it. So, it's kind of good. I could just type in CON and boom, I would actually be able to properly put it in. So there are a lot of nice features for that. Also, they've got duplicates. This pretty much is for any kind of function that they have. So, if you wanted to find duplicates, you can highlight a group on a field, just type in that, and it's going to bring up the entire, find duplicates. So you could get to all of this stuff by manually typing it or going up to, data tools, and you could put all these kind of things in. But they're kind of making it a quick, easy way to get there and to launch the command directly from the help menu, which I think is very helpful, Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, I think and this is kind of always a challenge with really any software tool, but specifically spreadsheet management, is that there's just so many things that can be done in here, and they're very hard to find, especially if you're new to using a certain tool. So being able to just grab them, search, like create macro or start typing duplicate, right? And it's going to show you all these different things that it's got under the hood. So I think it's nice for discovery, right? Because you might just not even know that some of these things are here, but if you start searching for them, then all of a sudden it kind of shows up for you. So pretty cool. I mean, anything, at least in my view, that like helps people use products and not get caught up in the minutia of where things are and how to find them, and it just adds a lot of value. So could
Yeah, we
work
talk
to
about
the
this a lot on the show. The Zoho office team just doesn't rest, man. They are constantly improving these products. They're doing great stuff for them. I look at Google. I can't tell. Maybe they do release new features for the suite of Google Docs, but they've got to be few and far between. I haven't seen anything in a while, but they're constantly improving. Love what they're doing here. So kudos to the Zoho office team over there. All righty. And then moving on, I'll let you comment on this one, Tyler. So Zoho Bookings has introduced some major new features. Let's go with the first one.
So they have added calendar invites. This is one of those. We used to have I guess it wasn't a segment, more of a running joke of things we thought must have already have been there. This is definitely one of those. So you now can send calendar invites when somebody books through Zoho Bookings. Again, that seems like something that should probably be in the V1, but kudos that they've added it here. You can now also set up, it looks like, custom calendar names so that you can actually define the names of your events. This, again, is a need to have for us internally, right? I mean, we've got all these different types of things that can just appear on my calendar, right? Free consultation, kickoff call, like internal meeting. And, being able to name them accordingly so that I know what I'm getting into when I look at my calendar for the next day is nice. So kudos to the bookings team for getting these ones added. Again, it's still just one of those applications where can't quite recommend it against a lot of the competition. It just has too many issues with ongoing calendar sync problems. I mean, it's any of our clients that that end up using it, maybe sometimes against our guidance, we end up having to submit tons of tickets on their behalf. So it's definitely one of those ones. I mean, we'd love to use it, right? It would save us like 10 grand a year now on Calendly. But it's just not quite there.
Yeah, it's a bit crazy. If you don't know, over at Zenatta, if you click on resources and just resources, we actually rank the Zoho applications. Yes, best in class. You should use them. Maybe pretty darn good app, but there might be some use cases where it's not going to work for you. And it used to be no, but we changed it to not quite yet. And this app has been permanently in the not quite yet for a very long time. And this is just one of those reasons. I mean, so it's good they fixed this. We're going to have to go back and take a look. There's still been some syncing issues. We're going to have to see if maybe those have been addressed. They haven't announced that they have. It would be great, if, like you say, if this app really worked the way it's supposed to. But this is a step in the right direction. But you have to ask yourself, this thing was released in 2019, and it's finally sending out proper calendar invites here in 2022. And if you're booking, I love this. Are your clients' prospects not showing up for appointments? Well, now they're going to get a calendar invite. Kind of key. So, I'm glad they're making these changes. Last thing on this is just minor. They had decided to change the booking ID to some crazy alphanumeric 17-digit character. It used to be a much simpler,
You define like a text prefix and then it would count up.
Yeah,
so it's like
it used to be really clean. You could easily understand it, and then they changed it to some crazy thing. Now they're saying, "Hey, we're sorry, we're putting it back the way it was." So
obviously they should not change it to a hash encoded randomized text string. Just I think it's a given.
Very hard for people to type in that anyway. There you go. All right, and wrapping up the news, we've got one more small story here. If you use Zoho WorkDrive, they have an application called WorkDrive TrueSync and WorkDrive Sync. They are for Mac. They are for Windows. Basically, it adds it's just a folder on your desktop, or it's in your Finder, or wherever you can easily access it. So you're accessing WorkDrive basically the way you would access any other file on your computer. They've now extended the ability in the application so that you can share a file. So previously, you couldn't do that, but now you can go ahead and just right click and go ahead and share a file, which is pretty cool. because you have not been able to get those external links and share the files and do this kind of thing. So a really, really nice implementation for the desktop. You're not having to jump back into the website of things to get a link and share the
Mhm.
file. So
And it's
cool.
I always get these mixed up. It's TrueSync that doesn't actually pull them to your computer, right? That's the one where it creates a folder and it looks like they're local, but they're not actually local. I think that's TrueSync, right? Rather
It
than
always
like
throws
one
me off
sync,
because
standard sync.
TrueSync, you would say should sync, right?
Yeah, but I think
Um,
TrueSync, yeah, this is the one where it doesn't actually pull the files down. It's just an
right.
embed.
It gives
I've
you
always
it
thought
gives you a
TrueSync is
view
so
of them, but they're
cool.
not on your
It's a
PC.
it's such a cool thing that they've done. And then, yeah, being able to share is really nice. I mean, kind of one of the goals I would imagine with using a sync, whether it's TrueSync or the standard, is that you don't have to go to the web interface. And so if there's any missing functionality, like being able to share, then it kind of forces you to do that dual browser, right? I've got some stuff here and some stuff over here. So really nice move to kind of unify what you can do locally versus in the cloud environment.
Yeah, yeah. And this is and sync, by the way, I oftentimes get asked about this, like, hey, is there a way to back up my entire WorkDrive folder in real time? Yeah, you can just have a server or a desktop or anything in your office, have sync on, and it will sync those files over. So kudos to the Office team again. And with that, Tyler, let us get to the implementation of the week.
Alrighty, so this is kind of a fun one. It's honestly something I'm surprised that we haven't done as an implementation of the week before. So this is something that is kind of a build on to Zoho CRM and the Zoho Campaigns integration. And basically, this is a way that you can create segments inside of Zoho Campaigns based on a lead or contacts membership to a CRM campaign. And the naming convention here is something that throws a lot of people for a loop. So a campaign in the CRM kind of uses what I would argue is like the more normal, usage of the word, which a campaign could be something like, we met these 1,000 leads at a trade show. We're going to call them once a week. We're going to email them once a month. We're going to run them through this process, right? But it gets a little bit conflated because when you integrate Zoho campaigns to Zoho CRM, it creates one campaign record for every single email that's sent. And then tracks, the clicks and opens against that. And that is nice functionality. They shouldn't get rid of it. It gives you the ability to view these campaigns that are sent as emails natively within the CRM. But the challenge here, in essence, was that what our client wanted to do was be able to say, okay, well, this lead is a part of this call campaign, or they came in from this trade show or this webinar. So I want to make a segment for them inside of Zoho campaigns to do a little bit of follow-up marketing. And the issue is that to create a segment in campaigns, you need to have a field on that lead or on that contact, or for a contact, maybe on the related account, that you can sync over to campaigns. And so essentially what we did here is we set up a custom field inside of leads and contacts called, campaign membership. In Zoho Analytics, we created a set of query tables that first basically run or roll up all of the campaigns that a lead is a part of and kind of wraps them into a nice clean text field. And then as part two, we basically run a scheduled function where if the field on the lead for campaign membership does not match the value from this kind of magical table we've created in analytics, then we overwrite the value in the lead with the new value from analytics. So it's basically like they were added to a new call campaign or they showed up for a webinar. So now they have this new thing that we need to add. And then really the last thing you need to do is make sure to add that field as a part of your mapping between Zoho campaigns and CRM. And then it'll flow over and you can use it for your campaigns segment creation. So again, it's one of those ones that like I'm just kind of surprised we haven't done it before, or maybe we've been asked to do it a long time ago and it just never made its way into the implementation of the week. But there are a lot of people that use CRM campaigns for much more than just syncing the emails that they've sent from Zoho campaigns. And it's not rare, right, that they might want to send an email to someone who came to a webinar or follow up on a trade show via campaigns. And this just gives you a nice way to do that.
Yeah, very, very nice. And it's useful. And there's still a lot of confusion. I don't know, people like, oh, I have campaigns. I guess there's no way for them to change those names because they're so different if you just have CRM. But like you say, on the trade show side, if you put that list of everybody that attended that trade show, you attach it to that campaign in CRM, then every deal gets, you can go look at the end of the year. How did we really do on this trade show? We used to, back when we had Zoholics here in the United States, Tyler, that used to be a thing where we would go upload the list of everybody that stopped by our booth, everybody we talked to, all those kind of things, and then looked great. We spent $40,000 on Zoholics, getting everybody in there, getting the booth, doing the whole thing. What was the ROI on that at the end of the day? And kind of taking a look at that. So great functionality. This is a really cool implementation. I like the cross connections there.
And a big shout out to JP for building this one out. His bright and smiling face there on our slide.
Oh. All right, and then moving on, let's go to our code share of the week over at Club Zenatta. Earlier as we were prepping for the show, I said, wow, this is a rather one-off, unique implementation. And your comment was, as much of the things we do are, Brett. So this is merging desk tickets based on a meta tag in an email account. You would say, why? Well, because we have a client that has tickets coming into their Zoho desk that were coming from Zendesk, which, if you're unfamiliar, is kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the whole help desk field. And they were experiencing that new replies from Zendesk created a new ticket for each reply. And rather than adding it to the thread of the initial ticket, because of the fact they were shooting them over to Zoho anyway, we wrote some code to fix all that and kind of merge them into one nifty ticket, I guess. Yes?
Yeah, so basically it looks like, when anything is coming over from Zendesk, as it's creating new tickets for each of those responses, which is the behavior we don't want, each of those tickets does have a little hidden meta tag that is the same across all of those newly created tickets. And so essentially this function with the nice big all caps, do not edit anything below this line, is actually able to read those meta tags, find other tickets with those same meta tags, and then merge all of those tickets into a master that maintains all of the threading that each one of them had as individual tickets. So really cool. I mean, this is a very specific example coming from Zendesk, but depending on where tickets are coming from, it can sometimes be a challenge to make sure that they thread back into the original email. It's very simple if you just have an email address in Google, support@Zenatta, and it just forwards in, the back and forth is all just going to thread perfectly. But this is something that we bump into 1 out of every 20 desk implementations, where we bump into a couple little threading issues, maybe based on a very specific source or some type of inbound flow. So nice one to have in your back pocket as just a way to be able to dynamically merge them. It's good work to Greg on this.
Yeah, thank you for posting that, Greg. I'm not sure if Greg did that, but it's pretty cool. I like it. I like it a lot. And if you're unfamiliar with Club Zenatta, that is our little online community where we are actively in there. You can ask questions. We will answer them. We've got a bunch of people that are very active in here that are also answering questions and helping us out, helping everybody out. We've got the code share form, which we just talked about, last week. Who was it? It was Elizabeth Clark actually was our code share. She posted some really cool stuff in there. That's happening. If you want to ask us a question that we're going to answer at the end of the show, we've got a Q&A for CRM Zen form. You can drop the questions in there and we will get to them at the end of this show. And then all the news that we talk about on the show, we only cover a subset of that news. There are a lot of little things that are just like, well, that's okay. We don't need to talk about it. But those end up over in this Zoho news form. We just kind of have a running list of everything that's happening in Zoho news. So head on over to club.zenatta.com. It's free. All we need is your email so that you can post and participate in the forums. And we hope to see you over there. That is club.zenatta.com. And with that, let's get on to our read of the week. All right, Tyler. There's an article. Zapier has a great blog. If you're not familiar with Zapier, Zapier is a kind of a low-code API builder. Allows you to do pretty nifty things. Let's say you want to connect this to this. Well, rather than having to write code like we just looked at, or do API calls, do that kind of thing, you can just kind of go here and just point and click. It's a little WYSIWYG builder. Make those connections and connect two applications together. And they also happen to have a fantastic blog. And this one is on WooCommerce versus Shopify. Which e-commerce website builder is the best? I think if you go through this and you look at it, really what it all comes down to, they've kind of got a nice little graph here, is that, WooCommerce, you can customize a little better. Ease of use, Shopify crushes it. On the price, it's technically free. But you can do some other things with WooCommerce. But if depending on where you're hosting your payment gateway, it can be free. I would say the price on Shopify can get really pricey and really expensive real fast. They're giving 3 stars here. And then your overall customer experience, like I say, setting up Shopify is hard to get wrong. Really what this comes down to is budget and need and integrations and all those kind of things. And, where you're going to break even at the end of the day on your spend, because you can set up WooCommerce and you can set it up for free, and you can run it through Stripe or any third-party processor, and save a lot of money there. On the other hand, Shopify is about as point and click, easy to get going. They support virtually everything. They're expensive though. If you want to get a really cool Shopify theme, it's $250, right? Whereas you want to get a really cool WooCommerce theme, it's going to cost you from free to $50 at the most. So anyway, it's all around pricing, ease of use, time is money kind of thing. And those, you'll really have to make those decisions yourself. Anything you'd add?
I think the big decision there too is that because WooCommerce is built into WordPress, if you have there might be non-e-commerce components of your website that you can only make work in WordPress, right? And so if your site is 95% e-commerce, 5% other stuff, I think it's a pretty easy choice to just go with Shopify. But if you need a lot of different kind of custom pages and maybe some of these cool plugins that do magical things, then you might need to use WooCommerce and build your WordPress around that. I will say both of these can integrate to Zoho without much issue. Shopify is a native integration for CRM and inventory. WooCommerce, I don't think there's a native. We always go with a plugin by a team named CRM Perks with a Z at the end. Fantastic plugin. You can point those into Zoho. So on the Zoho side, we don't care too much. We'll get the orders in, we'll get the customers in. So it really just comes down to how much stuff do you need to build around your commerce platform, and where is your budget sitting for how much you're willing to spend on it.
All righty. And with that, let's head over to Zenatta.com, see what's going on over there. So Wayne posted up a blog, timely, Zoho campaigns, a getting started checklist. Zoho's, I think, forced in, is it today? Is today the drop dead date where everybody has to move to the new sync?
Technically tomorrow, unless you kick and scream, and then they'll bump you to October 31st.
But you need to make that transition. It's a whole new way that Zoho CRM syncs to Zoho campaigns. It gives you a lot more functionality. There's just a lot of really valid reasons, I think, to go ahead and make that switch over to the new sync, and you're going to have to do it anyway. And with that in mind, we've given you a little checklist of everything you may want to look at before, as you're setting up campaigns. So take a look at this. It will save you a lot of pain and heartache, just kind of going through these steps and getting everything set up properly after you've got that new sync going, and just getting things set up properly, period.
And don't skip any steps here, right? Validation, it's not always fun to load all these into clear out and let them run through and get rid of some, or doing domain authentication. That is a must do, right? Some of these you can keep your topics simple, you don't need to go crazy, but there's definitely boxes here that need to be checked before you actually go ahead and send an email. You do not want to send one to a list that you've not run through validation, or where you have not added your SPF.
We'll pause on this one a little bit here, because this is becoming such a big thing for our clients. I've been blacklisted. My emails are all going 100% to spam. If you buy a list from someone and you just load it in and send it out, you're going to get blacklisted because odds
Yeah.
are that list has got 40% of the names are bad, they're invalid, your bounce rate goes through
If
the
no
roof.
one's
And the
opted
other thing,
in, right? And so this is your first email to them. It's a recipe for disaster.
you clearly know that no one opted into that list if the bounce rate is that high. So, you know, that you should run them through. We've got 3 services listed here: Clear Out, Hunter, and Zero Bounce. All those are good. Upload your list there. It'll give you back a list that actually has some validation. Another thing on this that happens often is you have a valid mailing list. People have opted into your valid mailing list, but you know, COVID things got in the way and you didn't send out a newsletter for 6 months.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, I've got my list. Well, what do we think? It's like 1.5%, 2% per week or
Yeah.
something like
The
that
general
is the drop
standard is
rate.
about 1% a week are going to turn into a bounce.
Right. So if you waited 6 months, you're just going to have a huge bounce rate and then you're going to get flagged as a spammer. So even if you have a valid double opt-in list, take it, run it through one of these services before you
Yeah.
start your campaigns again. Otherwise,
And
you're
I
going to be in
think, yeah,
trouble.
and as a general best practice, right? I mean, if you have a list of people that are opted in, you should be regularly mailing them, right? I mean, even if you're doing everything right, you're going to get some percent of bounces every week, right? We never send a newsletter that doesn't get a couple bounces, right? And that's just normal and it's not going to affect your domain standing. But by mailing them regularly, you allow people to gradually bounce out and gradually unsubscribe rather than when you take this 3-month break, email everybody, and then all of those pending bounces that have kind of been building up for a couple months hit you all at once. And that's kind of where you end up in trouble.
And if you haven't, go ahead and check out our blog over at Zenatta. Every week we post something useful. At least we hope it's useful to you. So you can kind of check out our blog. Also, all of the archives of the CRM Zen Show live over here as well. If you're like, gosh, what was that exact application and what is the link? I can't find the newsletter. You can click into any of our previous shows and just kind of scroll down, and all of the links to everything we talked about will be here. And you know, it's kind of an archive of everything we've done. So there's 217 of those to take a look at if you've got a few years. Anyway, Zenatta.com, our resource library, everything is there. Check it out. We hope you find it useful. And with that, let's get to our pick of the week. Shout out to Greg for bringing this one to our attention. A pretty cool application. As a matter of fact, everybody at Zenatta, I paid for our whole domain to have this. So if you got your Zenatta email address, you've got the pro version of this now because I think it's pretty cool. It's called Checker Plus for Google Calendar. He's got it for Gmail. It's the green programmer. The guy basically makes his living writing really cool Chrome extensions that people find very useful. A couple of things about this application I like a lot. One is Quick View. You can basically just click here and it's going to tell you what's going on your calendar. So pretty neat that you can just click there and say, hey, here's my calendar view and there's what's going on without having to go over to your calendar and take a look at it. Maybe you got your calendar open all the time. If you do, I guess it's just quick to go over that tab. But this can give you a quick view at any time, straight up from your menu bar there. Additionally, I think the big one that we like is the notifications. You can set up custom notifications. Sure, calendar will give you notification, but it just lives in that tab. This is actually its own little pop-up. You can have a voice, you can have a ding, you can say, you've got a reminder, you've got a new meeting coming up, whatever you want to do. And it's going to kind of constantly remind you, and it pops up, it's present, it's right there. It's really hard to be late for a meeting or miss a meeting again. I think that was why Greg got it in the first place. But a pretty cool application. I like it a lot, and I think it's super valuable. So you might want to check this out. And it's just quality too, man. Really, really well written. And this guy's got a lot of extensions. He's got the Checker Plus for Gmail, Google Drive, you know, explain and send screenshots. This is cool. When you take a quick screenshot and you can just notate it, do whatever you want before you send it out. Anyway, some very, very, very nice extensions. So check that out. I don't know if you've installed it yet or not, Tyler, but it's pretty cool.
No, I haven't installed it quite yet, but it does look pretty cool. And I guess Greg here is forwarding on the credit to Tom on our team, who actually I think gave this to Greg, so that Greg would show up for his own meetings.
Perfect. Well, now everybody's showing up for meetings, and that is a very good thing. All right. And with that, let's get on to our tip of the week. All right, Tyler. Our tip of the week comes from you. What do we got?
Yeah, so this week I went ahead and recorded a video that's been on my list for kind of a long time, honestly. It is essentially a run through of the full Zoho One admin panel, and it's based on the new version that recently rolled out just a couple months back. So first, probably 5 or 10 minutes or more from like a user view. How would you set up your dashboard? How do you get in any of your apps and set up your pins? And then the tail end of the video, kind of like second 2/3 maybe, is more on like an administrator basis, right? So how do you add a user? How do you set them up for apps? How do you do conditional assignment? Really just run through line by line the whole back end of the admin panel. So yeah, hopefully people will find this one useful. These are things we get asked all the time, like how do I set up where when I make someone a sales user, they get added to CRM and Sales IQ, and there's a lot of these things that you can do from the Zoho One panel that we just wanted to, go ahead and highlight for everybody.
Yeah, very cool, very useful. And we say it once, we'll say it again, we'll say it 1,000 more times. If you're not already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Head over to youtube.com/Zenatta. We are posting 2 to 3 new videos every single week. We hope you find them useful. From the feedback we get, we find that most of you do. And also give us suggestions. A lot of our ideas for these videos come from you guys saying, gosh, I'd really love a video on this. And we're happy to do it because so much in Zoho, you don't need us. You can do it yourself. And we just want to make it so you can do it yourself. And it's super simple and super easy to do. So youtube.com/Zenatta, hit subscribe, check the bell, get reminded. You've got it. All right. And with that, Tyler, I guess it's time for some Q&A. All righty, the first question comes from Patrick after watching segments and topic assignments in Zoho Campaigns 2022. Hey, would you happen to know how to specifically sync new custom fields? I believe I have synced some new fields in the CRM across the campaigns, but they are not generating any contacts when creating a segment. Any chance you could provide a resource to help? We thought about this. It should be working, Patrick.
Yeah, you've got to
Tyler,
add
any
them to
ideas on what to
CRM.
double check
You'll
there?
need to add them to your maps. Each of your syncs is going to have a map that you'll need to apply this custom field to. I'm almost wondering, there were issues in the past with the old campaign syncs where if you added a new field to them later, it would not always pull over for existing contacts. So I'm almost wondering if maybe you're on the older sync methodology and haven't moved to the new one yet. Because as long as you've got the field in CRM and then you go into your CRM integration tab and add it to the field mapping for each of the modules where it's relevant, it should just flow right over. So you'd want to check and just make sure that you're on the newest version of the sync so that those updates will properly come across.
All right. And then Walter, after watching email workflows in Zoho Campaigns 2022, asks, is there a way to play in the workflow with the site conversions, purchases? Let's say I want to send a second email to a user who clicks on a link and did not generate a conversion on my site. Can I do this? Tyler, you had
Yes.
some thoughts?
Yeah, so it's kind of a two-step process. So you have your workflow set up. Let's imagine you have a segment that if they're in the segment, they enter into this workflow and then they get the email. You can have your response track the click. Then what you're going to need to do is, and this will kind of get into the way that your website and the purchases there are integrated to CRM, but you need to have like a field in your CRM record that would capture, and it depends how granular you need to be. I'll take the simplest approach. You can kind of apply additionals. Is maybe when a sales order gets created associated to a client, you kind of like check a box in the contact that says like has purchased, right? Then you'll need to add that field to your integration from CRM to campaigns. You'll need to set up a segment. You could call the segment something like, buyers, right? Where that field is set to true. Then you need to go back to this workflow, go to the top right under the little settings cog, and you can define an exit criteria. And so essentially your exit criteria would be if they ever enter that segment of buyers, or if that field ever becomes checked as true, then they would exit the workflow and they would not receive that second email. Gets a little dicey. You're going to want to add some type of delay, right? Like give them time to purchase, maybe a day or two before that next one goes out. If you're looking to do it more specifically, where it's like they may have purchased in the past, I don't care about that. It's only if they purchase like after this email has gone out. You'll need to get a little more clever with adding like a most recent purchase date and kind of build some segments off of that. But it's definitely a solvable problem. It'll likely affect, how your web integration is working, or maybe what happens after one of those orders comes into CRM.
All right. And then the Door Doctors, after watching Zoho Forms Full Product Overview 2022, wants to know, hello, if you have an option to upload a picture on your form, how does that show up in the CRM? So Tyler, actually, we were talking about this and you were looking it up. I thought you could create an image field in the CRM and you could upload it to that. You thought it went to attachments. Is it both or either or none?
I know you can send it to attachments. I don't believe you can map an image field in a form to the image field in CRM. I don't know if any of our developers want to chime in the chat and tell me I'm wrong, but I don't
Gosh, I
think you
thought you
can.
could.
I don't think you can map it to like the image gallery field or like the image upload. I think it has to go to attachments.
Okay.
Maybe someone will tell me I'm wrong.
But in Zoho Forms, you just go and you can say put it to attachments. You can't drop it
Yeah, when you
directly
do
in.
your forms integration, you just check a box that says grab all the attachments and images and add them to that CRM record.
Yeah. If you're listening, Zoho, I'd love it too if you could, in a Zoho form, automatically update the image for the particular record, the record image, as you will, that sits up at the top. That would be kind of cool as well, to be able to do that. I don't know. I'm sure there's ways we can do it with API, but it's that'd be nice. All right, and then Door Doctors wants to know, why do you not use mail or calendar? Mostly for integrations. I would say that would kind of be the big one. You heard us talking earlier about Zoho bookings, and because of Zoho bookings issues, we use Calendly, and in Calendly, you need to read the Zoho calendar. And there is no integration for Calendly to read the Zoho calendar. You could have it sync to another calendar, have it read that calendar. You could do that kind of thing as well. And I would say the same thing with mail. There are a lot of companies we do set this up for. We set up mail, we set up calendar. It's perfectly great. We just have so many extensions and so many plugins that are tied into our mail and that are tied into our calendar that we don't want to live without from a productivity basis. And so I think that's the main reason. I like both the apps. Calendar, huge improvements to it. Was it this year the new version came out?
I think
Or
late last
year?
year, this year, they've been changing it a lot.
Yeah. So just for a few specific plugin integration reasons, a lot of cool little apps we use.
Yeah, and I think there's some general like underlying challenges with Zoho Mail. Like we found for one client, and it actually is an endemic issue. It applies to us too. Zoho Mail can't receive emails from WordPress for whatever reason. They just don't deliver. So there's just like odd little things in the background with Zoho Mail. And given that mail is such an important channel to communicate with your clients, it's just not something that we're willing to take any risks on.
All right. And then John asked, after watching the Zoho CRM Full Product Overview 2022, why do you say Zoho Desk is for light support? It seems much more robust than that compared to what? Tyler, I'm sure this was a mistake you made, clearly not me in saying this, but no, Zoho Desk is not for light support. But now that I'm reading this again, you were watching the Zoho CRM Full Product Overview. So in the CRM, you do have tickets and cases, right? And that is definitely for light support, right? But that is not Zoho Desk.
Yeah, so we
Because a
might
lot
have
of people
misspoken
just go on
though.
CRM.
But yeah, so John, if we said that in that video, that's a mistake on our side. It's definitely
is.
very robust. It's very robust. So
It's a great
yeah,
application. But my
I
guess here
would have
though
to
is,
check the video. We may have been talking about like the embed. When you go to an account, you can see all the tickets from Desk inside of CRM, and you can do some light things there. But yeah, the Zoho Desk as an application is very full featured.
Yeah. And of course, I was joking that you said that it was probably me, but I can't. My guess is, in looking at this, is, and a lot of people get confused about this as well. So if you just get CRM, you get kind of a basic help desk in there. It's, you've got open tickets and you've got solutions. What do they call them?
Cases,
Cases
yeah,
and
but they're
solutions.
very, very
Very
minimal.
limited. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, you also get like invoices and quotes and those kind of things as well. And then when you hit in books, you got to get rid of all. So there can be some confusion because they do have kind of light versions of those kind of things that live inside the CRM. But Zoho Desk, as Tyler said, is a winner. So if we said that, we apologize. All right. 1001 brownies. Why not two? Why not 1002? After watching Zoho projects, creating a project template, 2021 beginner's tutorial says, hello, how can I use Zoho Calendar to create repeat annual events for an academic calendar? For example, we have classes each month per year per group. We have about 15 year groups per academic year, and this is repeated annually. Does anyone know how to do this? Yeah, and this really isn't a projects question, but if you go calendar, I'll show my screen here real quick. You can just create any event and go ahead and go to the more options tab and then just say you want to repeat it. And then on the repeat, you can just say, I want it to repeat yearly, monthly, weekly. So you can go ahead and do that. Now, the problem is when you're repeating something yearly like that, I doubt if it's the same day of every year. So if we were to do this, it's going to repeat on, September 30th, 2023, and that might not be the right day of the week, but it is just right in there, very straightforward, easy to do. So hopefully that answers your question. Anything you'd add to that, Tyler? No?
Nope, I think that's it.
All right. And Amicron Golf and Turf, after watching Zoho Campaigns Full Product Tutorial 2022, wants to know, can I sync back to CRM from campaigns lists by assigning topics in bulk to those contacts already in campaigns and CRM so the interested field you recommended then populates? Just because it's a new field in CRM, so updating in bulk from campaigns could be quite a fast process if it can be done. Tyler?
You'd have to look at doing a workflow, but the challenge is going to be if they were in multiple interest groups. Like you can do a workflow inside of campaigns where you run it through a particular sequence and you can actually have it write back to the CRM to update fields of that leader contact, but it's going to overwrite, not append. So if you had like a bunch of like maybe a multi-select field for interests, it's going to overwrite that when you send it back. Honestly, the way that I would do this if I were you is I would make it the standard that everything gets assigned first inside of CRM going forward. What I would do to backdate this is, and it's a bit of a process. This is something you would do once, right? And then going forward, you're always going to assign these in CRM. Is you could have workflows where based on their segment entry or certain topic interest, you actually add them to mailing lists. The only reason those mailing lists are going to exist is so that you can export them. So you basically get an export of everyone that's associated with a certain segment or topic that way. You're going to have to do a little data blending to kind of like roll these up into like, email is Tyler at Zenatta, and then I have a comma separated list of all these interests, and then import that to CRM to update your interests field. So again, like you want to solidify the workflow for everyone first, that it happens in CRM in that interest field, and then do this kind of data manipulation step so that you only have to do it one time.
Nice. All right. And then we're going to wrap it up with our questions here with Steve Sandor, who asked, I have searched high and low for the answer to this, so please help. I am using a single line text field into a fillable document. And in the fillable PDF version, if the length of the text is greater than the field size, the text is hidden. The default setting of the length is 30, and I have made it 100. Is there a way to make a single line text field expand beyond 30? I don't want to use the multi-line option if possible. Steve, Tyler did a little digging on this prior to the show.
Yeah, I mean, there's essentially like when you're filling a document, there's two ways to get the data in. There's like a fillable field, which sits like on top of your document, right? So this would be good for like 1099 or, a W-2, something like a government fillable document where you need things to fit within these certain little boxes, right? So you kind of overlay these fields. Those are going to struggle with anything that has a high variability in how long it is. We battle this all the time, like a county name could be 10 characters or it could be 50, and they both need to fit onto this government document, right? So unfortunately, there's no good fix, because when you're using those fillable fields, Zoho's assumption is that they have to stay that size to fit into a certain part of the document that you're laying the text into. If possible, depending on, again, what type of document you're filling, the other way to do it would be using more of like a mail merge and merge tag model, where you're going to like put the merge tags in line with text, and then it's just going to put whatever it's got in there, right? And so it'll kind of just adjust the rest of the paragraph accordingly. For anything that's like a proposal, a quote, really like any document other than a like government form, some type of very, very form driven doc, we'll generally always go the mail merge route, because like, a name could be Brett, a name could be Samantha, and just getting the sizing right on those is just brutal. So it really depends on what type of doc you're using.
Yeah, I think Steve's using Accord forms here, which I think you have to have these fixed PDF forms, and you're kind of stuck with that. So, you say you don't want to use a multi-line option if possible, but would that fix it? I'm just wondering. I don't know. I have to play around with that a bit. I wish we had a better answer, Steve. All right. And with that, Tyler, another show is in the bag. Thank you so much, buddy.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
As always, if you have any questions for us, you can head over to club.zenatta.com, go to the CRM Zen section, ask us a question. We will answer it on the show next week. And if you want to talk to Tyler, myself, or anybody over at Zenatta, head over to zenatta.com. You can drop us a line.
Yeah, on the website is where you'll find complete episodes of the show, as well as links to all the stories we discussed today. We'd love if you would follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us here on YouTube, as well as your choice of podcast app. We'll see you next Friday.
Alrighty, off to the weekend we go, Tyler.
Oh, that we do. This was a fast week.
I know. Everybody, hope you have a great one. If you're in Florida, stay safe. East Coast.
Now South Carolina, I think, is next.
Yeah, crazy times. All right, everybody. See you next week.